Hey, I'm Hawk, I'm sick, and today I want to talk about why you should revisit Total War Three Kingdoms. And I kind of want to get into what made it such a big deal and such a departure from the rest of the Total War series. Right off the top, at number one, we have the setting. I mean, the Three Kingdoms setting is really, really cool, and it was a big departure from other Total War games that were more strictly historical, I should say. They weren't entirely accurate, but they tried to keep it as historical as possible. Now, the Three Kingdoms period, I mean, there was the War of the Three Kingdoms. The greater events did happen, but there's a lot of myth mixed in with the story, and I thought it was really cool that they decided to pick this period in particular. You have a bunch of larger-than-life characters that are really represented in a good way in this game. They really feel larger than life. And you have two different game modes, effectively. You have the romance mode, or the more historical records mode, where in romance, a single unit like Cao Cao or somebody could just dominate half an army by himself. But in records mode, they have an entourage with them, and they're just as squishy as everybody else, but just kind of a little more important and have better guards. So you could approach this however you'd like, with the more of the mythological hero route, or the more realistic, this guy was in charge, but he was still just a guy route, and that's cool. The setting also affords a great opportunity for a lot of personal storytelling, as well as the greater empire building. The stuff that they added, gameplay mechanic-wise, really aids this, and every character feels like a character. I'll get into that a little more later, but it's a perfect setting for both the small stories and the greater stories, and I was really happy when I heard that they were going to make this game. My second reason for why Three Kingdoms is dope, and probably one of the best Total War games to date, is because of the features that they added. This was the first time that they added more features than they took away in a new installment of the Total War series. I've been playing Total War since Medieval 1. I went back later and played Shogun 1, and I've played everyone in between, and it's been quite a roller coaster. Being a fan of the Total War series, and if you are a fan, you understand that completely. But every time a new Total War would come out, they would take stuff away that I liked from the previous game. I know it's a stupid thing, and I don't think many people liked it, and that's probably why they took it away, but I missed, like, ambassadors, diplomats, sending people physically across the world to talk to another kingdom. And you needed this character in order to open up negotiations with anybody else. If you didn't have any ambassadors or negotiators or senators or whoever, if you didn't have these people, you wouldn't be able to talk to other nations, and I really like that feature. They took that away. They took away a lot of things from different games, but when I booted up Total War Three Kingdoms, it was the first time that I had to actually read up on how to play a Total War game in years and years, and I really appreciated that. They didn't add diplomats back, unfortunately, but I don't think it's really needed in this setting, because it takes place in China, and yes, China is massive, and the map reflects that, but they added a lot of character interactions, which is something that I thought was always lacking from Total War. Like, generals always just felt like a template, where you had X guy and the name changed and the face changed, but the outcome could always be the same, even though you had some variations. Everybody in this game, every commander, general, whatever, every faction leader, every character feels like an individual character. They feel like a person with their own interests and with their own dislikes, and you have to manage these things to keep them happy. And you can also have like a friend group, effectively. It was such a unique thing for a Total War game, and I still love it to this day. Seeing that system in play again after a couple of years having not played it, it's fun to go back to. And that leads into my number 3, and I'm probably going to butcher this, so I'm sorry, but it's the Guanxi system, or its relationship character system, and how they depict these larger-than-life characters and make them feel like individual people, and then how those people interact. We haven't seen that since in a Total War game. The last couple of ones have been interesting, and they've tried new stuff, but this was the first time we got to see characters interact in a way that we've never seen before in a Total War game, and that I can't stress how cool that is. And when you really get into it, it could cause some serious drama later in the game with, factions breaking and alliances cracking or new alliances forming, and with certain characters you even have more ability to kind of manipulate other factions and characters around you. You could start proxy wars. Like, the politics side of this game is just crazy, which is, again, reflective of this story and the time period. But also, it's just something that I wished we could have done in earlier games, but we can't have we don't have it in newer games, but we did get it in this one. So it really makes politicking and interactions feel very good. And at number 4, I've got to say its size. I mentioned earlier that it just takes place in China. And if you look at a modern map, China seems pretty big, but it does not convey the size of this country. China has, I think, more biomes than any other country on the planet. It's got totally, vastly different cultures because they're separated by so much distance. The country is huge. If you've ever, looked at a proper representation of China on a map, or just, some kind of breakdown, whatever, you realize that this place is just almost unfathomably large. And the map in this game really reflects that. It feels like it would take like a year to get across the entire country, maybe even longer. And your little kingdom that you start out with in the beginning, your little faction with 1 or 2 commanderies, feels so insignificant to the grand scheme of things, to the size of this country, and it's kind of true. And then when you wind up taking over half of it, 3/4 of it, you know what I mean? You take over the majority of China, you feel truly powerful, and you wind up getting abilities that reflect that. You wind up being able to do, like, edicts and stuff like that. You get these abilities based off of how much of China you control and reunite, quote-unquote. So they really, really, really conveyed the size of China very well in this game, and we haven't seen that done too well in other games either, like the Viking one that takes place, Thrones of Britannia, I think it is, which takes place in Britain, general Britain, Ireland, Scotland, England, and the size of that one feels a little wrong. They nailed it here. They really nailed that here. And lastly, at number 5 is the story. Every Total War game has a story of sorts, but some of them are more open-ended than others. Most of them are pretty open-ended in general. This one has a narrative that changes with each faction, whoever you pick, whatever leader you decide to go with, and you could follow that narrative, or you could go and do your own thing. And it's the only Total War I could think of outside of some of the more newer ones, like the Troy. Troy has a pretty distinct and set narrative, but outside of Troy, it's the only Total War that I can think of that lets you either just go totally off the rails and do whatever the hell you want, or stick with a more historical and accurate narrative. And it's really good. If you follow the story, it's good stuff. I always loved the stories, I always loved these characters and the drama and the intrigue, and getting to follow that, or having the option to not follow that, feels pretty good. I always loved that about this. Playing through Total War 3 Kingdoms feels less like playing a traditional Total War game, and kind of like playing a fan-made spin-off of a Total War game. It's not really like anything else in the series, and I guess it's kind of close to Shogun, but in my opinion, it blows Shogun out of the water, and I'm probably going to catch some shit for that. But not to say Shogun is bad, but this is so much better. It's a unique experience in general, and I think if you've never played it, you should check it out if you're at all interested in the War of the Three Kingdoms, or, RTS games in general. And if you have played it and it's been a while for you, you should definitely go back and check it out and play it again. It also has really, really good mods, and it's still awesome. No matter how many times you play it, no matter how many hours you put into it, it is still awesome. I've got quite a few hundred hours. Yeah, I've got over 200 hours in this game, and it's still just as cool as the first time I played it. So I definitely recommend checking this one out.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Give us a like if you enjoyed it, and dislike it if you didn't.
Let us know what you think about the channel.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, you're welcome.